Hi, I'm Kat with Scorpion Forge. I'm back here for the part 10, which I think is our final part of making these rings for Jelly Holland that I make that are um, basically bands of copper or brass. And I have a bunch of the brass ones and a few of the copper ones that are a little bit larger. And these two I've already done, so you can see how they come out. But before I do that, I just have to have my tools here. What I use is I have a wire brush, steel wire brush, and I have a round file that's kind of a medium grit round file, a fine grit half round file that's small, um, a little tiny diamond tipped round, half round. It's half round on this side and flat on that side. And then I have some of this 4/0 steel wool. Well, I have it wrapped around a pencil so I can get inside the inside of the rings. And I have a sanding block. This is a double-sided sanding block that's got like I believe that's like a 60 or 80 grit and a 120 grit on this side. So with those tools, I've got the rings that we already made in the previous videos. So I'm going to start with a copper one because it's bigger, so it might be a little easier to see. And so what I have to do with these is the first thing I do is I look at the interior of that copper seam there and see of that soldered seam. And well, this one doesn't have a lot of overflowing solder, but some of the other ones did that I have to file down. So I file that with the larger file like this until that looks smooth, relatively. And that's just to knock that down. Then if it's big enough, I can come around with this half round on a large enough ring, but on some of the smaller rings you can't even get in there. But it's a good idea to just kind of do that to knock any burring off the edges with, I'm using a half round file to kind of help loosen that up. Yeah, just to knock off any of the excessive burring. And then I come back with my half round diamond file, and I use my wooden surface here because this piece of pine board is my work surface so that I don't destroy my my work table. And so that way, if this piece of wood gets worn out, I just throw it away and get another one. it's no big deal, and it also kind of like jacks that up an extra 1.5 inches off of height because it works with my height in this table too. So right here on the inner edge bevel, so we use this starting at the joint. I use the diamond file to kind of round off this inner edge bevel of the inside of the ring. And I just go all the way around. I just gradually turn it while I'm filing along the edge of it. And by the time I go around a couple of times, it files to a nice kind of rounded inner edge bevel. And I also want to get any extra wackiness that there might be there from the soldered seam, because we don't want that to be prominent in the final product. But go around it about twice. Typically, I ought to get that inner edge just beveled just a tiny little bit so that it's smooth when you wear it. It'll make it a lot more comfortable than if it was a square, sharp edge. And then you just turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. Make sure I get that soldered seam there. Make sure that's flushed down. And then just try to do that little inner edge bevel like I was telling you about. And then go around and around and around until you've got the whole thing, which takes a minute. And I would normally have my fan on because it's warm in here today, but I had to turn the fan off so you can hear my dialogue. I'll turn that back on as soon as I get done with the video. I normally have a fan and a jukebox and if I got my music going or a YouTube video or something I'm listening to while I'm working. I can kind of just zen out. And I mostly like to work at night because there's no air conditioning in here, and I live in Texas, and it can get hot in the daytime in Texas. Fortunately, today's kind of a cool, cloudy day, relatively, but it still gets stuffy inside the shop. And also, on a sunny day, the shop is a metal building, and it catches the afternoon sun, so it gets really hot in here. So I mostly try to sleep in the daytime and work at night, because I do this and music, that's my only job. I don't have a day job. Why would I do that? You know, because I'm a full-time artist, musician, and therefore I don't make a lot of money. But that's okay. I like having my time and my thoughts to myself, and kind of being a hermit, so it works. All right. So looks like I got that pretty good around the edges. Now, what we do is get our sanding block, use the heavier grit first, and we can sand off the edges on the sides with the heavier grit on both sides. It's all hand sanding because this whole step is all hand done. There's no power tools involved. And then on the corner of the sanding sponge where it's got abrasive on both sides, we want to do it around this way, so we're getting that inner edge where we just filed it off. Well, we're sanding that inner edge to make it smooth, so it'll be comfortable to wear. Do it like that, and it's easy to spin it this way. So what I do for the other side is I just flip it over and do it the same way on both sides. So get both sides of the inner edge there. Go around a few times. And then on the outer bit, how we do that, I use the seam as a reference point because I can see it. I can barely see it, but by the time we're done sanding, you won't hardly be able to see it at all. And so start sanding it, so I'm just holding it here, and now I'm just kind of gradually moving it around as I continue sanding it like this. This just takes a little bit of elbow grease is all. And this is a soft sanding sponge. Well, not soft, but it has some give to it, so it will conform to the curve of the ring, so you're not flattening your ring. If you had a flat block wrapped in sandpaper, then it wouldn't be able to conform to that curve like the sponge would. Something you can do if you want to use your old sanding sponges and wrap those in new sandpaper, that'll work too to achieve the same effect. But these cost. They come in packages like that, and they cost $2 at the dollar store, and they're very much worth it. But they do get used up eventually, because here's an older, rattier one. They do get torn up, but you can get pretty good mileage out of one of them before it gets to that stage. Anyhow, so I was sanding. This is the heavier grit, the 80 grit, I believe. And it's wet or dry, so you can use it wet or dry if you need to, but I'm using it dry right here. All right, now we can go over to the other side on the 120 grit. It's a little bit finer grit, and do the same procedure over again. We just go around the sides like that, and then we do the center, the interior edges. I used that wrist motion. It's there's a lot of repetitive motion in this, especially if you're doing a bunch of them. I got 22 of them to do today, and I already did. This is the third one, so yeah, I've got a lot more work to do. But I'm hoping to get this done today and out in the mail tomorrow. So, because getting paid is a good thing. Alrighty. And now I gotta find my little seam there so I can start on that angle, because I just like to have a reference point. And then do this. And go around a couple of times with the finer grit sandpaper. And then it comes out looking like this. Looks pretty good. Now, what we want to do is we have our 4/0 steel wool wrapped around a pencil. That's what works. And then we just go inside of here and kind of use that to polish off the inside edge of the ring. This one's a little bit heavier, bigger diameter than the smaller one, so the ring sort of track what the steel wool can do its work of abrasive work. You see, you can go around there a few times like that, and then just we can come out here on the outer edge, or just set it up, or just let that part go down the wood like that, and then we can polish the outside with this, with our steel wool, just like that. Now, for certain jobs, if you want a coarser grade steel wool, I do have coarse grade steel wool, which I don't know. That's 4/0. I don't know what this is specifically, but it's just a coarser steel wool for something that requires it. But for this, we're doing finer work, so we're doing the soft 4/0 fine grade steel wool. And did you know that steel wool is flammable? It's 4/0. If you put this across the poles of a 9-volt battery, it will make sparks and catch on fire. You wouldn't think that metal could burn, but it does. Please don't, Mr. Wasp. Yeah, I have wasps. I have wasp spray, but they get in here anyway. Because it's summertime in Texas. It's the middle of June right now. I think we're the 20-somethingth of June. I don't know. Yeah, 25th, 26th. I don't know. I mean, every day is Groundhog Day to me. It's because I get up every day and do this. I do this, work on art, play music, hang out under my beautiful oak tree, and work in my organic garden. And I don't have much of a life other than that. So I post some of my music online, so yeah, I've got. All right, and so now this is our finished product. The only other thing that I might want to do this, if I wanted to make it super duper shiny, is I could use hit it with the buffing wheel on my Dremel, which is like a little buffer wheel with some buffing compound. I could do that, or I can also polish it with some not Tarnex. What's that stuff called? I've got a jug of it over here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Brasso. Yeah, Brasso. This stuff works good. I can wipe it down with that in a rag if I really want to make it super duper shiny. But for right now, this is going to be the last video, because I don't need to like show you how to polish metal, because I figured you know how to do that. But this Brasso works really, really well on copper and brass. You do not want to use this on silver. Never use this on your sterling silver, because it will react wrong. It's not designed for that. It's only for copper, brass, and bronze, or chrome and aluminum, stainless steel, and pewter. But do not use it on silver. But it works good for copper and brass, which is what we're dealing with. And so I did that one, so I'll do a brass one just to show you. But we're already at 14 minutes, so I'll just do a quickie on this one. So on this one, we got to do. All right, let me look for the. Wow, I can't even see the seam hardly on this one. So that means I did really good with the soldering, because there's no blob of solder left over on the seam. Because this other one, you can see the solder in there, but I filed it down to where it's not really important. But so you wouldn't see it unless you were looking for it specifically. I don't like that little curve there. I'm gonna have to sand on that a little bit more. That's okay. But This one we're just gonna do the drill. So I'll just go ahead and start with the small diamond file and hit that inner bevel. And this one's smaller, so it should go faster. Because brass, it works pretty much the same way as copper. Brass is a harder metal, but for like sanding and grinding applications, brass actually works a lot smoother because it doesn't develop as much friction, and it's has enough resistance to it that the sanding works instead of it just getting kind of hot and gummy when you try to grind on it. Because copper is such a soft metal that it doesn't have a lot of resistance to it, so it creates a lot more friction, and you have to quench it a lot more when you're on the grinder because of the heat. It generates a lot of heat relative to the brass, whereas the brass is more a straightforward, smooth process. Copper and sterling silver behave similarly. Also, copper, when you heat it to anneal it or solder with it, it makes a dirty forge scale more so than brass does. So it means you have to clean up your weld points when you're soldering or welding or anything with it. While soldering, brazing, you wouldn't really be welding with copper specifically. Though it is possible, yeah. They say you're not supposed to try to forge weld copper. I've successfully done it before. It's just the trick is you just have to have something like twisted really close together with lots of flux in it, and then you heat it to almost its melting point, and then you can forge weld it. But we don't need to do that. If you don't need to, don't bother. It's like it's a whole different. It's not part of this particular project. But I can't help but talk about metalworking because that's kind of what I do. And also, it's not very interesting just sitting here watching me file on the inside of a piece of a brass ring. So I have to keep you entertained somehow. But see, yeah. So I got that bevel done on that side, and so I just turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. This is a much smaller ring. This is like a size 7.5, whereas those other ones are about 11. Okay, just filing around here, trying to get that smoothed and rounded out. There. I think that's good. Now we just get our large grit side of the sanding sponge and do this to it on the side. Just kind of an oval motion is what I usually do. Works the best. That way it gets it in all directions. And it doesn't wear your sandpaper out in one spot too badly. And then we'll do first the inside edge, because that's the important part. Because it affects your comfort while you're wearing it. And we'll sand the outer side. We're still on the big grit. Yeah, all right. Now it's looking good. Now just come over to the finer grit and do the same thing again. There's a lot of repetitive work here. Just doing the same thing over and over and over and over. I got to do it 22 times to get all of these done. Well, Only 18 more times. This is the fourth one. I won't torture you with more after this one. I'll just include this. So I wanted to show you how it's done. Then I'm doing the outside edge here, and I'm spinning it around my finger so that it is getting it all the way around evenly. No, we don't have any flat spots in the ring. And did I get the inside edge on this one? Yeah, I don't know if I did or didn't, because it's hard to tell because it was already smooth from the other sanding, but I'll just do it, just make sure. There we go. Now I just do the pencil action on it. And this one's a little bit smaller diameter, so it'll be a little tighter fit on our steel wool around the pencil. And you just rub it in there good. And turn it around and do it the same on the other side, just to get it from both directions. And then come down here with just like part of that and get the outer surface, the shiny part on the outside. Now I might come back and hit these with the Brasso, because I think that's just easier than dealing with the Dremel and the wax. And also Brasso doesn't leave the waxy residue that makes black stuff on your finger like the buffing wax would. But I'll hit them with a paper towel and some Brasso later. But see, now you see what we got going here. I'll try this one on because it's closer to my size. It's a little 7.5. Looks pretty. And these are big, like more like big men's size or whatever. So I mean, that one fits on my thumb. So those are about 11s, and these are about 7.5s. Okay, well, thanks a lot, and thanks for watching the entire series. This is 22 minutes, so yeah, these last two videos are a little bit longer, but I had to show you what I was doing. And if you need to get a hold of me, catch me at Scorpion, like the animal, Forge, like forged metal, and 74, which is because I'm old. Yeah, anyhow, at Scorpion Forge 74 on Instagram, or at Cat Francis 74, cat with a K, K-A-T Francis, like San Francisco, F-R-A-N-C-I-S 74. Yeah, I have two web pages. The Cat Francis 74 is my music and personal page, and the Scorpion Forge is my jewelry page, more specifically. But they cross-post everything, you know, so you'll see a lot of my vegetables on both of them. Anyhow, thanks a lot, and thanks for visiting with Scorpion Forge, and I hope this was a little bit informative. And if you would like to order some different pieces, my pieces are on a lot of my other inventory pieces are on the Scorpion Forge 74 Instagram page. I also have a Facebook, and it's also Scorpion Forge 74, same handle. But I've kind of migrated mostly over to Instagram these days. But I do more than just rings, but these are a special item that I make for Jolie Holland, who's a musician friend of mine, who sells these on her merch table whenever she goes on tour to England or Norway or New Zealand or wherever she goes. So these are a special thing that I only sell through Jolie exclusively. But for other pieces, or if you really want something like this, I could make an exception, but you know, but I do sell these for $50 each if you want. All right, so thanks a lot. All right, bye bye.